Hi, my name is Daniel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a very simple bread recipe and explaining each of the ingredients that goes into it. Always remember sanitation. Always wash your hands before handling any food. Be sure any utensils, bowls, and measuring cups are washed using soap and hot water, and sanitize all counters and surfaces that will be used. So we'll go ahead and get started. So first what you're going to do is you're going to take 3/4 cup of warm water, which I've already got in the bowl, and add it to a large bowl. Then you're going to take your active dry yeast and you're going to stir it into the bowl of warm water until it's dissolved. So in this recipe, the yeast is the leavening agent. So what the leavening agent does is it's what's going to cause the dough to rise when it's heated and baked. The yeast will undergo fermentation, so it'll start to metabolize simple sugars and give off CO2 as a byproduct. This carbon dioxide is the gas that's going to cause the dough to rise and expand when baking. So first you add 1 teaspoon of salt, which is mineralized sodium chloride. The salt is used to strengthen the gluten in the dough, and it makes it more stretchable and it helps it to retain more water. And this allows the dough to expand more while holding its structure while rising. And the salt is very important, especially in bread. Then you're going to add the sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. The sugar helps the texture of the bread, and it helps it retain moisture, and it aids in the browning of the bread. And it also helps the yeast undergo fermentation because simple sugars are what the yeast will metabolize to give off their carbon dioxide. Then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of vegetable shortening. The vegetable shortening is an oil or fat used to impart a tender quality to the baked product. It weakens the gluten structure, which is where the tenderness comes from. Okay, so then you're going to add 1/2 cup of milk. And in order for, in the dough, the gluten structure to form by the proteins glutenin and gliadin bonding together, there has to be some type of liquid or water there. And so this milk is the liquid that allows the gluten structure to form in this recipe. So then you're going to go ahead and add 2 cups of flour. I've already got it measured out here to the bowl. So this flour contains the starch and the proteins that will form the dough and the gluten structure. Again, the proteins glutenin and gliadin are the 2 proteins that are found in flour. And when added to water, they'll change shape and they'll bond together with disulfide bonds to form the gluten structure, which is elastic and stretchy and allows the dough to rise while still holding its form. And you're going to slowly add a little bit more flour until the dough chases around the spoon. And this will let you get the right amount of flour for the dough. The amount of flour, the exact amount, varies depending on many factors, including the weather. Alright, so now that that's done, and the dough is the right consistency, you want to knead the dough. So you're going to take the dough, you're going to put it on a floured surface, and you're just going to go ahead and work the dough out. Alright, so I've been kneading it for probably about 7 or 8 minutes now, and I think it's about done. The reason why we knead is because it really helps the dough to form the gluten structure and strengthen those gluten bonds, and it lets it be very elastic. So one way we can check to see if it's done is the window pane test. So if we take off a small piece and we flatten it out and we start stretching it out, we can see that it keeps stretching but doesn't rip. And eventually it'll get very thin and almost even transparent in the middle, but still won't rip. And that's how we know the bread has been kneaded enough. Okay, so now you're going to take your finished dough and you're going to put it into a buttered bowl. So I've already buttered it. Put it in there, and you're going to turn it over so that both sides are greased. And you're going to cover it and place it in a warm spot for it to rise for 1 hour. Okay, now that it's been rising for about an hour, we're going to punch the dough down and then turn out onto a floured board and knead it again. The reason we keep letting it rise and then re-kneading is because this results in a finer gluten structure, which results in smaller crumbs and prevents huge gaping air holes in the bread. Alright, so now I've been kneading it for about 5 minutes. It's time to form it into a loaf and place it in a buttered bread pan. And you're going to cover it and let it rise in a warm place for 30 minutes. This would also be a good time to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now that it's been rising for about 30 minutes, you're going to score the dough by cutting 3 slashes across the top with a sharp knife. What this scoring does is it allows the dough a place to expand and controls the direction that it will expand. After this, you're going to place it in the oven and bake it for about 45 minutes or until golden brown. This baking is where the majority of the rising will happen. The yeast will do its fermentation and metabolize simple sugars, and as a byproduct will release carbon dioxide gas, which will expand the dough, and because of the gluten structure and the properties of the gluten in the dough will be stretchy and elastic and rise, yet still keep its form and not break apart. Alright, so now that it's cooked to a golden brown, all that's left to do is turn it out onto a clean dish towel and let it cool. Thanks for watching.